Jesus is now preparing for his death on the cross, and he is at a town called Bethany. As always, I want to encourage you, if you've not already read the passage, read it and try to find one of these space, one more, and then come and watch the video and see maybe some of the things that I have pointed out, because the Lord has something for you. And don't shortcut it and just listen to me. Go and dig into the text and ask some questions of it first. So, Jesus is at a town called Bethany, that is outside the city of Jerusalem, not too far away. In fact, this was his base during his last week here on earth. And so Jesus was at Bethany in the house of Simon the leper. Very common for him to be among those that are outcasts. Lepers were not a part of the inside, they were outcasts from society, afraid of being contagious. And so here is Jesus in the house of Simon the leper. Of course, we know from other places he is no longer a leper. He has actually been healed. And a woman came up to him with an alabaster flask of very expensive ointment, and she poured it on his head as he reclined at table. And this is an example for us to follow. She is extravagantly worshiping the Lord. This was a desperate and this was an extraordinary situation. Jesus was getting ready to die. And so she takes this very expensive ointment, breaks the jar, and pours it on his head. So I wonder, are you extravagantly worshiping and serving the Lord in the way that this lady did? Verse 8, when the disciples saw it, now this was actually, I'm sure all of the disciples were kind of taken back and thinking we probably could have spent this money in a different way. But the disciples, in particular, the instigator of this reaction is Judas. We see that in John chapter 12, that John points at and emphasizes that Judas was indignant. He was upset. And he says that we could have sold this and given it to the poor. And John gives the little caveat that the reason Judas led this charge and led this opinion that they should have sold the ointment and given it to the poor was because Judas was in charge of the money bag, and he would from time to time help himself out of the bag for his own needs and his own pleasure. So when the disciples saw this extravagant worship, they were indignant. And this would be a sin for us to avoid, is for us to put down, for us to judge that extravagant worship is silly. We do not need to be angry at those that are freaks for Jesus, those that are going hard after Jesus and making radical life decisions for Jesus and the gospel. That is a sin we must avoid. Following Jesus will cause each of us to make decisions in our life that to others will seem silly, even those within our own household of faith, within our own church. We will choose to do things for the sake of Christ, for the sake of the gospel, that other people will see as silly. And we need to make sure that we're not the ones being indignant because people are extravagantly worshiping the Lord. So the disciples said, "Why this waste? This could have been sold for a large sum and given to the poor." But Jesus, aware of this, said to them, "Why do you trouble the woman? She has done a beautiful thing to me." So this is our attitude to adopt, is that extravagant worship is a beautiful thing to the Lord. It's a wonderful thing to do. And in this particular situation, this is a very beautiful thing because, as Jesus will point out, she is anointing him for his burial. There was no time to be anointed. The hastiness that they pulled Jesus off the cross and buried him, there was no time to anoint the body. And here, this lady, who we know from other places is Mary, anoints Jesus and prepares him for his burial. Verse 12, in pouring this ointment on my body, she has done it to prepare me for burial. Truly, I say to you, wherever this gospel is proclaimed in the whole world, here's a promise to claim, what she has done will also be told in memory of her. Everything you do for the Lord will always be remembered. Whatever you have done to the least of these, oh, that is considered a service to the Lord. So remember, as you serve the Lord, as you extravagantly worship Him, uh, the Lord will remember what you have done. Just like what this lady did for Jesus is being told even today in memory of what she did. I pray that's been a blessing to you, and I'll see you in the next video.